Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to actually talk about what's up and coming for 2024 after I give you several excuses about why I haven't already done that and we're several weeks in. And I'm really hoping this doesn't become the theme of 2024, but we're continuing so far with the chaos. And I've been sick now for the second time. Pretty sure I've got a cold. We have had snow. If you've watched any of the shorts, you've seen that we've had several inches of snow, which we don't normally get here. And just today it decided to coat everything with ice, which is what we do normally get here. So yeah, I mean, I've still got all the same broken stuff. I haven't gotten around to fixing any of that yet. And but yeah, I really want to talk about what's up and coming. But I'll give you a sneak peek of what we're dealing with right now and why we're not doing this out here. So this is slush right now, but that's about a ½ inch of slush that's going to be ice, which I will inevitably bust it on later. It's still raining a little bit, as you can hear from the gutters. And yeah, we didn't really get much in the way of melting before all this come down. Well, that probably helped next to none, but hopefully I don't bust my tail coming in. I actually expect and have been planning for 2024 to be a bit of a different focus than 2023 was. 2023 being our first full year here, you know, we did a lot of firsts, and that first year of kind of getting to know the land and learning a lot of new things and that sort of stuff. And through that, we realized there's quite a few things that need attention, like existing infrastructure on the property, and that we still need to kind of optimize some of the things we're working on. So we're going to continue growing and expanding, but we're going to do that a lot slower this year in order to kind of get better at what we are doing. And I think I said this last time, we're going to spend more time trying to focus on the garden and make that a success. Now the biggest, well, I mean, I guess there's a few, but one of the biggest challenges is actually not the garden itself. It's the fact that we have outrageous mosquitoes in the early spring and in the late fall. So during the times where it's more preferable to be outside in the evenings, and then pretty much all day throughout the spring and the fall, we get humongous, giant, like pterodactyl mosquitoes. I mean, I'm not really exaggerating. Like, the joke is, you know, hold on to your kids, they'll carry them off. It's crazy, and they swarm. So, anyways, kind of a tangent there, but that's kind of the general gist of what we're trying to work towards. Now, all that said, I've spent a lot of time kind of trying to prep and plan, and obviously there's going to be some changes, but one of the things that we, you know, come very close to doing was expanding our kune herd. I had an opportunity to buy out another farmer of his, and you know, we ended up making the decision not to do that due to the fact that we'd have, you know, multiple breeding age boars, multiple breeding age sows, and I'm not quite set up from an infrastructure perspective to manage a lot of different breeding partners and keeping them separate. And you know, between the lack of infrastructure and time, really, we just weren't prepared to take that on. So I would like to take on some additional at some point, but right now the timing just wasn't great. And the other part of that is that they also had several piglets that were born within a month of ours, which meant I would have had a large population that all would be ready to go about the same time. And I don't really have a market yet. I'm not really an established farm at this point. It hasn't been the goal to become a, you know, like a super established farm and go to market and that sort of stuff. We're kind of maybe trending there, but that isn't something that we're prepared for. So we made the decision not to spend the money and do that, and to put it into the infrastructure. So I actually want to get it printed out because I think it'll be a little easier to show you. And I haven't quite figured out the best way of like recording at the computer and screen capturing and sharing. If I do that, I may add that later. But we've kind of been drawing out our homestead from a satellite perspective and kind of where we want to do some things. So as already stated, the garden's a big goal this year. So I'll go ahead and jump right to the point. The very first thing that we're doing, and that's something I'm actually already in, you know, progress on, is I'm trying to get a greenhouse put together so that we have it ready to go for this spring. Now last year, one of the honestly the most challenging things I had was trying to seed start in my garage, and I decided to seed start as opposed to just direct sowing or buying, you know, already pre-started plants, because I didn't want to spend the money for that, and I wanted to kind of get a head start on the season. But I had two big problems. One is this garage. Right now, it's not terrible, but it's like right around 45 degrees. And we're at like 20 outside. So it's not bad. And I'm not heating it. But even in the early spring, it just doesn't quite stay warm enough, which meant I needed to run a whole bunch of heaters in the garage as well. Also a thing in greenhouses, but you get a little bit better for solar heat and stuff. I mean, it's what a greenhouse does. So that was one of the challenges. The other challenge was not having enough light. So I had to try to bring in a bunch of artificial light. It worked okay. I mean, we didn't do terrible with our seed starting, but I didn't really have the space in the garage, and I still really don't. And then the last thing was him. He kept jumping up on the plants and causing me all kinds of trouble. And every time he did that, I'd get stuff that's broken, or he'd dump pots out, and it just kind of was a deal. So I'm excited about the greenhouse. I'll probably film a whole bunch of videos about building that, just because it's going to take me some time. I'm estimating I've got about a month to a month and a half to get it up and ready to go before we are ready to start planting. So we've been doing garden planting, seed, planting and stuff, and we did all of our garden prep. There's more to go, but that was one part of it. And so I'm really excited about that. That's one of the bigger purchases. We got a great deal on it. We're actually building the 10 by 12 Harbor Freight, and I'm going to do a bunch of internal reinforcements, because they're notorious for folding in wind, and well, that's something we have here a lot, is wind. So we're going to build a greenhouse, build an internal structure to both anchor it to the ground and reinforce it, and we'll see how it goes. So another thing that we're going to try to work on this year, as I said before, was infrastructure. So, we had infrastructure in place when we bought the property. We've got a perimeter fence. We had coops on the property. I've got a barn already on property. I've got that like run-in style shed with, some stuff on the either side, some rooms. And those have been, serviceable for the year. But they need some improvements. And I need to get more access to water, need to get better access to electricity. I need my fences, several of them need to be mended, and I still don't even have my electric wire up. It's something I was going to work on in the fall, and honestly, I don't even remember why exactly, but I never got around to it. So maybe we get around to it this spring before it gets super hot, but if not, I guess we'll just work on it when we can. So we've got a lot of fencing to just kind of fix up. The roof and on that building, the run-in building, needs to be worked on. So we're going to try to get that done. Maybe redo one of the floors on one side, because it wasn't done right the first time. It's kind of rotting out a little bit because the roof leaks, so we'll have to rebuild that. And another kind of big thing is the chicken coops. So I'm a little bit torn on this one, but you know, this is kind of the time of year where they really don't, they function okay. So they serve the purpose. The birds stay warm. We've been 4 days now under freezing, and none of them have frostbite. I mean, there's a little bit showing on, you know, a couple of their combs, but not much else. The biggest issue with it is they're good for kind of containing the heat, but they don't do two things. One, they don't protect the eggs at all. The nesting boxes are exposed out on the side, and there's no, I mean, they're not insulated other than just the, you know, the wood chips and stuff that we kind of go and do on the inside. So that thermal mass kind of helps hold in the heat with that deep bedding, but it doesn't protect the eggs. So most of the eggs the last couple of days have been frozen solid, and we've gotten rid of them. And the ones that I haven't gotten rid of, we ate immediately because we didn't want to risk, you know, any issues with those. I've got a plan or an idea for potentially moving one of those coops over closer to the garden and building kind of a compost run. If you've watched any of Justin Rhodes' videos, he has this area next to what he calls his kitchen garden, all of his raised beds. And I forget exactly what he calls it. It might be like a compost run, but I'm thinking about putting one of those coops in there and see how that goes. Building a small run there for, you know, like the summer months. Not sold on that yet, but we'll see. But I am very, very likely to rebuild that coop sometime this year, just because, again, this time of year, they're great for overnighting the birds, because I don't use them year round. But when the birds won't come out because it's too cold, it's just not ideal. It works, you know, but it's just not ideal. There's really just too many birds for that small of an area. Side note, you might have noticed a little bit of dried blood on Twinkle's ears. That is because he won't stop trying to go at it with what I think is probably the neighbor's cat. So, yeah. What do you do? Just kidding. I locked him in the garage for a little while, hopefully to break that habit. We're still going to do pretty much all the same stuff we did last year. We're still going to raise out our pigs. We're still hoping to have another litter and expand them. We are not planning right now to expand the laying flock this year. We feel like we're in a good spot. We'll probably look to start cycling out some of the older birds next year and kind of doing a replace on them. But for this year, we are going to do meat birds again. Where we're going to switch it up is last year we did the Cornish crosses. They were great, no problems. We're actually going to try the Red Rangers this year. They take, I think, 12 weeks instead of 8. So they'll take a little longer to grow out, but because of timing, I wasn't actually able to get the Cornish crosses. And we're going to do 2 batches of chickens this year instead of just the 1, because we want more. And then when the butcher date would be and when I could get them ordered, it just didn't line up. So we decided to try another bird, and we'll see how it goes. I'm actually kind of excited to try a different one. We had thought about it, but we were going to go with the, you know, tried and true. But these are also a well-proven bird. I'm not really concerned about it, and we're just gonna do them this year. The last kind of thing planned outside of, like I said, the garden and, you know, the other stuff, with it being the infrastructure year, is there's a chance that I add some additional fencing. That's probably going to be at the end of the list of things to do, but I would like to expand the permanent chicken run area a little bit, and I would also like to expand an area near that run-in style shed. So to maybe help you visualize, if you're familiar kind of where my chicken, you know, both of my chicken coops are, well, just to the left of them is that other blue building, that smaller blue building that has the closet on it and the run-in shed where the pigs are right now. I'd like to fence in that whole upper area, almost in like a half circle around. And the reason for that is eventually I'd like to put in a high tunnel, and I'd like to be able to have an area for, you know, a permanent fencing that I don't have to necessarily worry about this time of year. to be able to give the chickens an area to run more, to give the pigs an area to run more. And while the polywire is absolutely fantastic for kind of the moving around, it's not super ideal for, well, when we get snow. So at the moment, all my polywire is grounded out to a point where I just unplug the fence chargers. Now, fortunately, the pigs are pretty well trained. They haven't touched it. They don't really realize that it's off. So not been an issue, but something that could be an issue in the future. Then the other thing that would actually do for me is actually allow both easier management in that area to let them roam. And if I do end up with multiple breeding stock, I'll have an area here that's kind of stationary and prepped and that I don't have to necessarily worry about. And I'll have a spot down at the barn where I can do the same thing, so that I can kind of manage them separate and not have to kind of deal with the chaos as much. And of course, last but not least, I really still got to work on, the gator. Still got to get that little push mower running. Who knows what else. I still need to do the maintenance on the lawnmower. The tractor's at like 46, 47 hours, so it's really getting close to being due for its 50-hour maintenance. I hear you. I already fed you. What do you want? I already fed you. I'll stop wandering around the garage and, boring you with some of my rambles, but that's the goals for this coming year in a nutshell. We're excited about it. We're hoping that it's, a productive year. Obviously, some things may come up and we may decide that, we have a deal we can't pass up and we add an animal or, whatever. But again, it's not really the plan right now. What are you doing, buddy? Come here. Oh, big cat. He's spoiled. Maybe not as much as some, but if any of that sounds interesting and you want to watch us continue to kind of learn and grow and, hopefully not make too many mistakes, but, I try to show them when I can. Feel free to follow us, and we look forward to sharing our progress with you. So until next time, you have a good day and see you then.